My name is Richard Medhurst. Last year, I became the first journalist in Britain to be arrested for my work under the Terrorism Act, Section 12. After being investigated for over a year, the UK have now dropped the case, no charges will be filed, and I am no longer on bail. But the UK authorities only closed it because they decided to pass the buck to Austria, where I'm facing similar persecution for my reporting. So the UK handed all their files, all their intelligence that they have on me, to the Austrians. Their claim is that Austria has quote-unquote primacy. Basically, that's the best excuse that they could come up with to try and save face. And I'll tell you why it makes no sense. First of all, Austria can't have primacy if the UK arrested me first 5 months earlier. Second, these two cases are definitely both ridiculous bullshit, but the claims are different. The UK claims that journalism is terrorism. The Austrians say journalism makes you a member of a terrorist organization. And third, under Section 12, they think they have universal jurisdiction, so they can prosecute you for saying something on the moon or in another country. But they didn't, because they have no case. There was no crime. But the fact they still went out of their way, my government went out of their way to give Austria whatever so-called files they have on me, shows you what vicious little shits they are. These cockroaches are literally blowing people up on a daily basis, and then they have the nerve to call me a terrorist because I'm sitting in a room by myself talking to a camera. I never answered a single question. I went no comment for 2 hours. I never unlocked a single device, even when they offered me journalistic privilege, which I'll explain in another video. I still turned it down to protect my sources, knowing I could face prison just for refusing to unlock my phones. I refused to cooperate with their fascist nonsense, and in the end, they still had to let me go, and they still had to drop the case. I believe the British authorities asked the Austrians to raid me and steal all of my devices precisely because they were unable to get into my graphene phone. Now that the UK has dropped the case, I really hope the Austrians will realize that they've been taken for a ride and sent on a wild goose chase with ridiculous accusations. The fact that this case has been allowed to drag on for almost a year and a half is a crime in and of itself. Keir Starmer's government still haven't addressed the fact that 2 weeks after my arrest, 2 weeks after Richard Barnard was indicted, the Israeli embassy was meeting with the Attorney General's office. Why does the Israeli embassy have access to the police force and the lawyers involved in my case and those of several other dissidents? This is an undeniable conflict of interest. I think that Israel leaned on the UK to go after me, then the UK leaned on Austria, or Israel leaned on both of them. However you slice it, and no matter how you look at it, it's political either way. So one case is dropped, but there's still another one against me in Austria, both of them claiming that journalism is terrorism. If we truly live in a liberal democracy, then it is the journalist's job to police the police. This is why we call journalism the fourth estate. It represents the fourth branch of government that holds the other three to account, that holds power centers accountable for their actions. It is not for them to police, to school, to impede my work. Nevertheless, this news that the UK has dropped the case is still a victory. It's a partial victory. And it's not just a victory for me. It's a victory for all of us, for our freedom of speech, for our free press, for our civil liberties. Thank you to all those who are still donating. It is so critical after they demonetized my channel and stole my equipment and now threatening me with prison. Every contribution counts.